Jennifer Ehalt is the Senior Education Manager at Common Sense Education. She has over 20 years of experience in education. Her main focus is working with districts, schools, and community organizations with the goal of building a culture of digital citizenship across all grade levels. Welcome back, Jennifer. We're ready to learn more with you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. That was such a lovely intro. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. We're going to be talking about supporting students' social emotional learning and digital well-being with Common Sense Education. You've already got a little background on me. I'm happy to be here in order to make this the best experience in the next 30 minutes or so. Please know that you can put comments and ideas and, whatever's the top of mind in the chat. We would love to have you, participate and be engaged in this discussion. And so we're going to talk a little about what and why digital well-being, what it is, why is it important? And then Common Sense has a digital well-being lesson collection really geared for 6 through 12, but we also have a component that's also for elementary, because I did see there were some elementary folks that are joining us today. So sit tight. We'll be right with you, and we will make sure we cover K-12 content in this space. And then we're really going to think about our values in tech. And I think that they play a really important part in how we participate, how we consume, how we create when it comes to media and technology and, internet spaces. And so let's go ahead. And if you're not familiar with Common Sense Education and our digital citizenship curriculum for K-12, I just wanted to kind of put it up here real quick. If you are, love to hear in the chat if you've used it before, if you are using it. Just nice to see get a little feel for who's familiar and who's not. And so we have 6 different strands or themes that we encompass in our DigCit curriculum. The first one being media balance and well-being, privacy and security, digital footprint and identity, relationships and communication, cyberbullying, digital drama and hate speech, and news and media literacy. And all of these strands are, information scaffold kindergarten through 12th grade. It's research-based out of the Harvard School of Education. And for our digital well-being lesson collection, we partnered with Harvard School Graduate of Education and the Center for Digital Thriving. And so it's all backed by research and all of the content that you'll see here today. So let's get started. So I like to define digital well-being and just get everybody on the same page. So when we're talking about digital well-being, one of the big pieces of our lesson is always introducing vocabulary, which is fantastic, especially not because they're not difficult or high-level words. It's just words that we're using in the media and technology space. And so it's important to define those pieces to make sure we're all on the same page. So today, for today's purposes, experiencing media and technology in ways that support one's mental, physical, and social and emotional health. And as we go through this, our base curriculum really entails all of those things, especially when it comes to the media and well-being content. And so you'll see here, it's all free, it's all turnkey, and it offers different maturity conversations, different dilemmas, different ways of sharing, privacy, passwords, all at the appropriate age levels. And so when we think about today's session, I wanted to introduce you to a lesson collection that's fairly new this year around digital well-being. And so there's 4 areas here: design tricks, how tech is designed to hold our attention and how it can impact our well-being. Thinking traps. What are thinking traps and how can they impact our well-being? The mind shift, kind of getting us out of that negative thought pattern. And then the tech habit challenge. And today, I thought we could go through some of these. We at Common Sense, if you're not familiar, we do a lot of research when it comes to media use and technology with, little kids, big kids, teens, tweens. Our latest one is called Constant Companion. And we discovered when 11 to 17-year-olds let us track their phones for a week, during the school day, the child will spend on their phone 43 minutes. And every day they will receive over 237 notifications on their devices. And most of these notifications are during the school day. And so these are things that I feel the why this is important in terms of why and how are we using media and technology? How does it make us feel? And how we can balance it to make it useful and not harmful. Anyone else out there feeling the effects of the notifications coming through on your devices? Some days it can be overwhelming. Some days it can be quiet, but 237 is pretty high. But that encompasses email, text, like all types of notifications that occur on different platforms. So I personally, I'm not sure if I ever really counted. 200 seems high, but doesn't it feel like there are days it feels like that? Very overwhelming. And as adults, we can navigate that. And with students, we have to sort of model how to navigate that. And not only are we going to talk about our values in tech and the importance, but also offer some strategies on how we can better set up our devices and our notifications and our silencing mode in order to help us kind of navigate a healthy balance during the day. So, how do social media platforms affect my well-being? I wanted to quickly go through this very first my values in tech. And this is really for grades 6 through 12, but I've seen this go down to elementary, and I'm going to show you how that can happen as we model through this. And this is one of those pieces in our webinar today where I want to invite you to share your thoughts in the chat. It just makes it a lot more engaging for everybody. So here we go. My values and tech. My essential question, every one of our lessons has an essential question. And this one happens to be, what are my values and how do media and tech impact them? The essential question is really great. I've seen this also used for daily PSAs, question of the day, writing prompts. So each one of our lessons that you'll see throughout our curriculum will always have this essential question, which is a really great way to get things started, get folks engaged, students engaged in a variety of ways. Oh, there's our vocabulary again. So the word values, when you think about the term value, this is where principles or personal rules that are important to us and are informed by our experiences, our identities, cultures, and so much more. And so there's a lot of things and they play a role in our values and how we feel about different things that we are engaged with. And that's going to play a role in our next slide. So I know it's maybe a little small, so I do apologize, but this is a list of values that we came up with out of the Center for Digital Thriving, and they're not just made up. This is based on a lot of research. And I'm going to leave this up here for a minute or so because I really want you to take some time and look through these values. And as you're looking through these values, I want you to think about one or two that are really important to you. And I know this is the tough part, picking only one or two. But at any rate, I'm going to give you some time, kind of see which ones stand out to you, which ones you hold close to you. I see there. That's helpful. Thank you. So there's hard work, there's independence. So once you have an idea of the two that stand out, that you hold really dear to you, it's important to you, your family, your classroom, whatever kind of route you want to take with this. But go ahead and share them in the chat if you feel comfortable. Throw it out there and let us know which ones are near and dear. I know for myself, I see Matt, your balance. Yes, balance is really important. Absolutely. I think the two that I always kind of think about are connection. Dana's with me. Connection, presence. Yes, Megan, presence, hard work, open-mindedness. I mean, all of these are, I know I'm not alone. This is hard, right? It's hard to pick two. Kindness, emotional health, absolutely. You know, when I think about connection, the reason I hold it so dear to me is because I like being connected to family and friends. I like being connected to colleagues. I'm a very social person, making new friends, learning about other people, other people's cultures, other people's values, traditions. I really thrive on that. It's great for me. So that's something that keeps me going. Another one is presence and balance, which, obviously I like to have balance, but sometimes that can be difficult with the hustle and bustle of our life and our world right now. And presence, being present, right? Good. Oh my gosh, I love all of these. I mean, I feel like there's a good mix. Some are coming up a few times. Good. All right. Now, what I want you to do is this is something that you can do. I've done this with not only middle school and high school, I've done this with families, modeling this for families or parent nights to get them to think about their media use in the home as well. So as I'm going through this, I want you to think of the different ways and different ideas on how you could model this for the folks that you work with. So next, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the next slide. Now, what I want you to do, if there's anything missing too, go ahead and put that in the chat. If there was a value that you held, near and dear, or you hold very true, go ahead and put it in the chat. There was a box there that if it wasn't listed, you could certainly add it. And then for the elementary folks, I've done this for upper elementary and even some of the lower grades. And I think you just have to narrow down some of the values and not give them all at once, or it takes some more time to explain which each value is in an appropriate manner. So you know your students best, but you can definitely reiterate or iterate some of the different ways you can talk about values, both for your classroom and your school. All right, got our top 3. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about, if you want to jot it down or share in the chat, what are some 3 activities you do every day that uses media and technology? So 3 digital activities that you do pretty much on a daily basis. So your top 3 things that you're connected to, whether it be because I have to or because I want to, either way. But I would think that my top 3 would be listening to music or a podcast. I have to say doing email or some type of communication through my professional job. And then my third use of media and technology is probably social media, whether, whatever platform I'm on that day, but social media is definitely one of my top 3. Oh, good. Jamie's not leaving me hanging. Yeah, social media, right? Thank you. Texting, news, emails, Gmail for work. Absolutely. So as working adults in the professional field, email seems to hit everybody's top 3, right? Or some form of email. Yes, Google Classroom, social media. This is great. And, I did this maybe 3 weeks ago with a 9th grade girls STEM class. And so I did the same thing. They picked their values and then they obviously shared their 3 top activities. And if you can imagine, 9th grade girls, WhatsApp came up a couple times this morning too. It's a great way to be connected with folks across the globe for sure. That's great. And so the girls, a lot of was on their list was listening to music was a top one. Homework, like using media and technology to complete homework tasks or homework assignments. And then the last one, some said social media, but the variety or the majority were calling out the social media platform. And so TikTok was top of the list as well, just to give you some insight on, doing this with students, some of the outcomes or some of the answers you would get. So yeah, social media teams. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about those activities. So you see them listed there. I want you to think about how do those technology help or support those activities? And maybe how does it hinder your values? And so thinking about when we think about email, top of the list, right? For most of us, does technology help or hinder our email? Kind of go both ways on that one, right? I think it's a nice, quick way to communicate with others, right? So it definitely makes things easier, but can be overwhelming at the same time. What was the other one? Some of them, let's see here. Text, music, podcasts, entertainment pieces, really fun, right? Of course they are. And I find that connecting is really helpful, right? When I can't always be with friends and family, connecting through WhatsApp or FaceTime, et cetera, those types of technologies are really great to be connected to others. Balance and what was the other one? Balance and presence. Sometimes I feel like that can hinder. I really struggle with, finding that balance between the things that I have to do with media and technology and also being caught up in it and not being present can be difficult. So I feel like that can be tricky. Yes, comparing yourself to others, absolutely. Dealing with school parent via email versus cause problems because, the tone, absolutely. The tone, the way it's framed, the way you read it versus somebody else, all of these things. Social media, absolutely. I view it as hindering for me for the most part in the terms of my values because I do find myself losing out on the balance fight. I could definitely use my time wisely in some parts of my day when I go on social media platforms. And I think somebody said doom scrolling. If you're not sure what doom scrolling is, that's just the algorithm continuously feeding you the types of videos and content that you want to see. And so before you know it, an hour goes by. Am I not alone, right? I'm not alone. And so these are all valid statements here in the comments that a lot of us are struggling with. And if as adults we're struggling, students are struggling too in terms of comparison, keeping up, always having to be on and always having to reply within a time frame. All of those things play a role on those 200 and some notifications per day, right? And so what we want to do is think about how we can build in strategies on how we can do better, right? And so I know for me, one of the strategies that works is turning off my notifications or turning my phone to silent is a big start, or just offering, setting a timer. So if you do want to have some of those guilty pleasures around social media, it's fine, but set a timer so you're aware of how much time you are spending on those platforms. Anybody else have anything that they want to share in terms of strategies or tips to make it a more positive experience as we build in these habits and tie them to the values that we hope? This is great. This chat's amazing. You are all awesome today. I love it. I love this. So many good ideas and so many uses when it comes to media and technology, right? All right. Well, those are just some things. We'll go ahead and what I wanted to do is share also the I'm going to put it in here. There's a link there to the lesson collection, so you can find the values in tech activity within that lesson collection. And so you might want to bookmark that so you have it to save for later. These are really great. I know the values and tech, I think would be really great for the first 10 days of school. As we're trying to think about setting up our classrooms, thinking about the culture that we want to create, when we're thinking about our class agreements and setting up expectations and habits, this would be a great activity to do to get the students to think about their use of technology and then the values that maybe not only personal values, but maybe you'll have values within your school or your buildings or even in your classroom, and they can be visited throughout the whole semester. And I think that puts a little more relevance on why this is so important. Another great idea is to maybe test these lessons right now in the month of May as we kind of set up our students up for a successful summer. And so maybe doing some pilot conversations with these activities. So then you sort of have an idea of how you can improve this for your back to school plan. Make sense? Cool. Has anyone used these yet? Is this all new to folks? Yes. And then you'll notice too in that lesson collection that I shared, for the elementary, there are 4 lessons as well. The pause for people, which I feel is a constant at my house. Pause for people, pause what you're doing. Device-free moments, why it's important to have these device-free moments, how tech makes me feel. And then there's also some onboarding things as well. And so, how do we onboard our devices? How do we take care of them? And so those will all be great for that part of the school year as well. So Let me see here. Any questions so far? All right, the next one I wanted to do, just to give you an idea of another like way some of these are modeled. This one's called thinking traps. And when we think about thinking traps, I think that let me see here. Yeah, so let's do our key vocabulary. Exaggeration or irrational negative thought patterns that can lead us to believe things aren't necessarily true. And so this is the vocabulary word, and this one's a little trickier. I know I wish I had a little more time to go through it, but if we could make this bigger, this is some examples of thinking traps. And I think these thinking traps start as early as elementary school. And this is when we think about all of the thoughts that we have when we're engaged with media and technology. And so I want to pause here for a minute and just let you read through these, and I'll read some out loud. But let's pause here and give you a minute to think about what these might. Okay, so just for example, mind reading, when you assume you know what someone else is thinking or feeling. A negative filter when you're only thinking about the negative pieces. Videos can mean a lot. They can say a lot, but it's not necessarily true. Fortune telling when you think you know what's going to happen or what's going to go on. And generalizations, all or nothing, right? And these kind of go into play. For example, I feel the sense of this when you get a text message or you send a text message and they don't respond right away. Even as adults, I think we find ourselves going down that trap of, why aren't they responding? Did they receive the text? Did they receive the text and not want to respond? Do they not want to do that with me? Do they like me? Do they not like me? These are these thinking traps and these rabbit holes that we send ourselves down, not realizing that it's a way that we're thinking and the way we're training our brain. And so how many of you have had experiences with thinking traps, even in your own space, whether it be an email to a colleague or email to a parent, emails to friends, emails to your own children, your own students? Yes, the cognitive behavioral therapy. Yes, it's aware of the traps, because it's okay to have these activities happening, but what we need to think about is how can we pull ourselves out of these traps and think in a more rational way. Just because someone's not texting or responding right away doesn't mean anything at this point, right? Maybe they have their device silenced. Maybe they have their notifications, turned off at the moment because they're busy being present, doing something else. And so these are all things that go on, right? And so what we would do with this lesson is there's posters that you can print and kind of put around the room, and you have students walk around and kind of go through each one of these with them. And then they can talk to a peer, turn and talk and think about a situation or a time when they felt this and why did they feel it and what did they do to overcome it. And then we have tips and strategies that we would share amongst each other on, how is this helping or hindering, the things that you do. So I see this is new to someone I saw in the chat says it's new to you. This was new to me too. I mean, I guess now that you see like the definition, what they're called, and the different examples of, labeling, for example, the terminology, I had some aha moments myself and going, wow, I did do that at one point, or there was a scenario where I did that. And how can I pull myself back and have that sort of that disposition in training your brain? And this is all part of the habits and routines that we have to go through all the time. And so these are teachable moments even in the classroom. And so anybody have any other thoughts or questions when it comes to the thinking traps content? And then we have the videos as well. So Dana, I'm the queen of mind reading. I love it. I love it. So yeah, we have videos. They're really great videos too. They're not very long in helping us. Some are a little longer, but it's worth it because we explain so much on what it is. And it's a really great way to just have these conversations with students. And so there's handouts, and you can embed this stuff within social media journals. We've had those where you can create different journals and have SEL journals, digital wellness, student wellness journals. So lots of ways for students to track their digital well-being in whatever format you want, but these conversation starters, these videos, and these activities will get the conversation going in a positive way. And so are there ways tech amplifies a particular thinking trap for you? And so going back to those top three, ways that use media and technology, are any of those thinking traps that were listed, do they tie or, heighten the fear or the feeling that you have that hinders it? I mean, that can certainly do things when it comes to connections, right? Someone's not answering. So many ways, so many different opportunities. I've done this with kids a few times now with students at the middle school level, and they are very interested and they do want to talk about it. And so just setting up a safe space and a culture of a classroom culture that allows them to share how they're feeling and share perspectives is what really important. So you may not have to have all the answers, and you don't even have to guide them down a path that you don't feel comfortable with. I think it's just making a space for them to talk about it, feel good about it. I know this is really little, and we'll make sure you get the link to this, but all of our digital well-being lessons have a pacing guide because they are 45 minutes. So this pacing guide kind of breaks it out and suggests how to introduce it to your class over 2 to 3 days, part 1, part 2, or if you're going to, you see them weekly. So it's a really great way to think about how you might implement it. We'll make sure we put that in the chat here in a second. I have it, and I'll share it out with you. And then the next slide I'm going to show you is about implementation too. So the curricular connections, and we'll make sure you get this link as well. This is connecting the digital well-being, ties a lot to the social emotional well-being lessons. And so if you already have initiatives like that going on in your school buildings or your classrooms or your district, some of this stuff will tie very nicely to the existing initiatives going on. Has anyone, as you see these, I mean, I talked about maybe the first 10 days of school. Any other places that you see this fitting nicely or helping to support some of the challenges that come with the mind reading and the thinking traps and values and digital well-being balance? Anybody have any thoughts and ideas? I know it's very new. We're just introducing it to you right now. But just if you have anything, share in the chat there based on what you teach. At the elementary level, there's all kinds of songs and coloring pages. And also all of these lessons have a really great support for families. So bridging the conversation. So what's happening in the classroom can also be shared at home. So there's a values activity for home. Like, hey, we've done this in our classroom. We want to make sure you can transfer it to home as well. And kind of build these habits and routines in your own home with media balance and well-being. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to revisit it, right? It's okay. Values are going to change. The seasons are going to change. Students are going to mature, right? And be exposed to different things. And so I think all of those things play a role in the idea of the importance of making sure you revisit these things more often than you might want to, but I think it's important. And same with families too. Revisiting these expectations is always good. Could be an ongoing conversation. Absolutely. We've done this with parent nights and getting families together and handing out those values, like just printing those value sheets that I showed you with all of them on there, and getting colored markers or pencils and just having the family circle, in blue, the top value, right? And then turn their paper over, write down as a family, what's their media and tech use, and then having those conversations about how they can help or hinder what they're doing. So we have all of the slide decks available for you as well. And so when you go to that lesson collection, we can put that in there again. So you have it. And I think that's it. I can't thank you all enough for being here today. This was a really quick introduction to our digital well-being lesson collection. So I hope it gave you a nice taste and a good experience of how these might be modeled or implemented throughout your classrooms. If you have any questions, there's a couple minutes there. If you want to throw it in the chat, I'm happy to answer. And if not, I can't thank you for having me today.
Well, Jen, thank you again so much for being here. You're one of our regular presenters, and we love having you present all this great stuff from Common Sense Education, your digital literacy and digital well-being resources are amazing.
Thank you.
Folks, while we're sort of wrapping up, Jen has specifically built in extra time for you to ask questions. So by all means, please get on that chat. We always love positive reinforcement. That is fantastic. Please keep that coming too. But certainly if you have questions about any of this information, please share that in the comments.
And I did put the pacing guide link in there. And I'm going to put the curriculum connections in there. If you want to take a second and grab those 2 links as well. I know they were kind of small to read, but if you open them up in the link on a tab, you'll have them then.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome. Dana, share it with your tech director,
thanks,
share it with your principal, share it with your superintendent, share it with whoever helps coordinate SEL activities at your school. Share. That's what these webinars are for, right, Jen?
Absolutely. And, I want to let you know, when this reminded me when they said, I want to share this with my tech director. We have a webinar coming up through the EdWeb platform. Are you familiar with EdWeb? Matt?
Yeah.
So anyway, we do a monthly webinar, and our next one coming up is about digital well-being and the values, but it's geared towards school leaders. So it's like, we'll do the values activity, etc., but we're going to show them how can you incorporate this into the school mission and the school values around media and tech use. So if you're interested, that's coming up in May 15th. If you or a colleague might be interested in, I put that in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm. And folks are, here we go. We've got a question. Are you able to post a copy of the values list? I would love to do that activity with parents. Yeah, definitely. There's lots of outreach resources for parents on the website as well.
Yeah, I actually have, if you want to sit tight real quick, I have the lesson plan for family, or the family activity is in the collection. If you go to the values in tech, I'm going to share the actual lesson because it has how to guide families through it. Give me 1 second here. I think it's.
And folks, we're talking about commonsense.org/education. That's been up on screen and it's in the chat as well. Over on the left, you'll see a link in the menu bar. If you're on for educators, you'll see digital citizenship over on the left, and there's a ton of resources under digital citizenship and SEL. These are all part of those SEL lessons, but there's also a filter so you can drill down to SEL specific lessons. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Christina, absolutely. If you're not familiar with Common Sense, we also rate and review media, all things media. So not only books and movies, but we also, I don't know if you knew this, did podcasts. So
really?
I do the podcast stuff because it's so nice to have those reviewed for kids, especially with summer coming and travel and vacations and less screen time. So definitely look under the media side for podcast reviews. They're really good ones for everybody to listen together as a family. And then, of course, movie nights, like the summer movie guide for summer movies will also be on that page as well.
Common Sense Education also vets educational apps too. So if you hear something about a really cool app that everyone's using on the Tickety Talks or the Instagramifiers or whatever they're called, check it out on Common Sense Education. See if they have reviewed it on Common Sense Education. It's always important to get multiple sources of information before we put stuff in front of kids.
Absolutely.
I think we are about ready to wrap up. Thanks, everyone.